You don't actually need proof of what you desire in your external reality. Your specific person has been waiting to text you, has been waiting to call you, and has been waiting to date you. And it's actually only our refusal to believe this in our reality as to why we're not immediately seeing it in our vicinity. And if you are new here, we are doing this challenge this month in which we are going to manifest that 1,000 people end up with their specific person. And so you absolutely need to be one of those. And today I actually wanted to talk about the idea of action, because action is a huge thing when it comes to manifestation. Now we know we technically only have to assume as if we're already with our specific person in order to see that show up in our reality. But a lot of the time we ask ourselves, so we're supposed to be acting in accordance to this state. So what does that mean? And it's actually much more simpler than we could ever imagine. Yesterday, I talked about the idea or the biblical quote in which whoever puts their hand to the plow and turns back is not fit for the kingdom of heaven, meaning that we need to assume as if we're already with them, regardless of what is happening around us, and persist in that idea no matter what until it realizes into a fact outside of us. But the question does come up, what do we do in between? If we're not looking in our external reality for what we desire or for proof, what are we doing? Are we just staying within our imagination? But action does play a part in it, because if you are to change your sense of being, you are going to change how you interact with literally everything. And so the easiest way to think about action is to ask yourself, what would I do if I were this person? If I were the individual that's already with my specific person, if I were the individual that is already receiving all the love I could ever want, what would I do if this were already me? What we don't want to be asking is, what can I do to get this outcome? Or what would I do if I was on my way to this outcome? What would I do to create this in my reality? And those two questions sound really similar. So similar, you may not have even noticed the difference between them. But the first one is what we would do if we were already this person. And the second one is what we would do if we weren't this person, but wanted to go get it. And there is a massive difference between these two questions and thoughts. One implies we are already there, right? What would we do if we were this person? How would you act? How would you behave? How would you speak to other people? And technically in manifestation, or in the law of assumption, it's not actually about actions. We don't want to get lost in this idea of what to do or what not to do, because there's a simple metaphor that's going to portray this perfectly. Imagine you are a king or a queen, okay? If you were a king or a queen, you wouldn't perform royal actions in order to be royal. You would be a king or queen, so everything you do would be royal. And there's that difference again. The first one implies that we need to do something to get what we want, that we are not the individual in our end state. Most of the time, we approach the law of assumption like this. We feel we are something and we must be something else. And this something else needs to come to us in our external reality or through action. In the way of you becoming a king or queen, we feel as if we have to perform royal actions to make that our reality. But that's actually not the case. If you were to assume the state of a king or a queen, everything you do would be royal because you are a king or because you are a queen. And if we relate this to our manifestation, then we know we're not doing things to make our specific person obsessed. We're not performing actions to make them like us. We're not doing things to make them text us. We are the person that they are obsessed with. We are the person that they want to text. And thus, everything we do is obsessive or is something our specific person obsesses over. We can see then everything begins and ends with the state. We don't go out and get what we want. everything that you do in your external reality is actually a secondary desire. It is a secondary implication from who you feel you are. Your actions always arise from a sense of being. That's when we do things, or why we do things that we feel make our specific person like us. Or if we were to become a king or queen and to do things that would be royal, we would be implying that we are the opposite. So if you need to be one of these 1,000 success stories, we need to bring it back to the basics. Don't do things to change your reality. Don't do things to alter it. Don't imply that you aren't what you want, because that's actually what creates what you want or what you desire. You are constantly reflecting your current state of being. And as like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it is actually only your refusal to believe this as to why you're not seeing it in your external reality. And to show you that your specific person literally is showing up how you are assuming to be, I want you to take a look at this success story. So it's a text I received yesterday in which someone wrote, who I was working with, "Hey Kyle, can we meet tomorrow? Specific person came over last night and hasn't left yet." So we had to reschedule our meeting because their specific person showed up and spent the night. Now, do you think that this individual was assuming as if they were already this person, or felt as if they had to do all of these wild and spectacular things to make it happen? The answer is within the assumption. They were the individual, and thus everything they did aligned with that fact. They felt as if they were the queen, so everything they did was royal. They didn't have to do royal things to become a queen. They didn't have to convince their specific person to spend the night or hang out. They were this individual, and thus their specific person wanted to meet up with them spontaneously. And we know this is something of their reality immediately reflecting who they are because of the spontaneity of it all. And honestly, as I've said before, this is one of the most greatest and amazing ways or reasons to change a coaching call. I will change every single one of my coaching calls over someone manifesting spending the night with their specific person, without a doubt. And so if we want to perform and do the same exact thing, we just have to bring it back to the basics. It isn't complicated. It isn't really intricate. It isn't complex or stressful. Manifestation is simple, and we sometimes feel like it has to be complex because our mind feels as if the solution is difficult or hard, and thus requires a difficult or hard solution to the problem. But that's actually not the case. It was all just about being the person and embodying the state, that thus everything you do is a result of that. And action is actually one of those things that most people kind of stress about, but we're not doing things to get what we want. We are the thing we want, and so we do things. So ask yourself, in your reality right now, are you acting as a queen and thus everything you do is royal? Or are you trying to do royal things to become a queen? Let me know in the comment section below. As well as this, make sure to comment any questions, any thoughts, and all of your successes on this journey to 1,000 people manifesting their specific person, because I want to see and hear your progress. Also, as I mentioned before, I am creating and doing a live workshop that you can join that is called Manifest 1,000 Successes with Your Specific Person. So not only are we manifesting 1,000 people to be with their specific person, but every person that joins this workshop is going to have 1,000 successes for themselves individually. So currently this workshop is going to take place Monday, August 18th at 5 p.m. Eastern time. But if you are unable to make it live, that's okay. You're still going to get a recording of everything that happens and the entire workbook. If you are able to make it live, I will have a little Q&A answering anyone's questions or anything that might be on your mind related to your specific person. Because today, in this success story that I included, is just one of many that we're going to create together. And so if you did want to hop in and grab your spot for this workshop, it is on sale for a pre-order, so you can click the link in the description. Or you can always head over to my website at kyleaugustcoaching.com. As always, thank you so much for joining this journey. Thank you for keeping me updated on your manifestation. Leave a thumbs up on this video if you know you're going to be one of the 1,000 people that are with their specific person by the end of the month. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by today, and I can't wait to see you in my next video tomorrow.